დიდი მადლობა.
Thank you very much for the question. Indeed, a year ago we had a milestone in the history of Georgia, because when we signed the association agreement and DCFTA with the European Union, we became a part of a huge market, tiny market of Georgia, merging with a huge market of EU. Apart from having a political impact, we also have economic prospects arising from this association, and despite the fact that less than a year has passed, we already have tangible results of the signing. One of such tangible results is that exports towards other countries from Georgia are declining. However, towards EU, it is rising. It is 1/3 of total exports from Georgia. And all these measures and steps will be gradual, and there will be tangible results witnessed step by step, and it all will depend on the economy of Georgia, the way it grows, and the relations built with individual member states of EU. There are several signs witnessing that we have made a choice towards European Union. For instance, AGM of EBRD is a significant achievement for the country. Also, a couple of weeks ago, we had an official launch of the Residence Office of European Investment Bank. With these steps, we demonstrate that our orientation is towards the EU and this European family. Well, obviously, the challenges that we face and manifested in the deficit of BOP require substantial efforts from the authorities of the country. However, if we look at the geography of our trade, we can see already that our orientation is towards Europe already. EU accounts for over 1/3 of our trade and exports, and our dependence on the Russian market is gradually declining. And if we look into the substance, we can see that exports to Russia of commodities require less expenditures and less efforts compared to other markets. However, I would use this opportunity to praise the business interests of Georgian entrepreneurs who focused on the right markets and made the specific efforts towards other sales markets. And in that realm, I would say we have quite interesting opportunities and prospects. And logically, we cannot expect BOP deficit to be filled overnight. It will require several years. However, the fact itself that our commodities will be exported to European markets without barriers, that will be a major achievement. Currency depreciation has indeed led to significant problems in Georgia. However, this is not the only currency suffering of depreciation within this planet, so I would say this is a common problem for many countries. And it's not up to the government of any particular country to solve the problem. It is a matter of shared agenda of international community to tackle the issue. If we look at our neighbors, for instance, oil-rich Azerbaijan, we practically have the same situation there as well. And the situation is even further deteriorated for obvious reasons in Russia and Ukraine. However, that does not leave us with an option to stay still and to wait for the developments. We have planned a serious agenda and we will be delivering upon them. As for the actions, we have planned to tackle the issue to improve the situation. I will list the actions which are within the competence and mandate of the government of Georgia, because you may well be aware that monetary policy is within the realm of the central bank of the country, which is absolutely independent in Georgia. In the recent past, we made an effort within the government and achieved this goal. We have no deficit-driven expenditures in the budget. We have increased our privatization agenda, and we have higher proceeds from privatization within the first 4 months of the year compared to the entire 2014. Another noteworthy fact is that by signing the deep and comprehensive free trade agreement with the EU, Georgia has become an attractive market for many European and Asian investors. China, I would say, is among the Asian countries that is keen to invest in Georgia, and I would say that will help the currency in mid to long term. And government is pursuing proactive strategy which helps entrepreneurship and agriculture sectors. As for the loan restructuring, which is offered by commercial banks, this is the initiative we welcome because commercial banks themselves understand what is a problem of NPLs, and their offer to the borrowers is attractive to make sure that they do not default on loan services. Irrespective of the fact that the banking sector in Georgia is indeed well developed and successful, and our two leading commercial banks, Tbilisi and Bank of Georgia, have their shares floated at the London Stock Exchange, we indeed have a rudimental capital market within the country, which develops the capital market with treasury bills, and at the same time that gets the proceeds to channel to the state budget. This condition is not satisfactory, of course, but we have had progress in the recent past. Last year, for instance, we have had another milestone. EBRD issued gel-denominated securities on the market, and it had followers afterwards, ADB, the Asian Development Bank, and then International Financial Corporation, the IFC. By doing so, we are developing the domestic capital market and increasing the players at the market. And by doing so, we're increasing the openness of the market. The government agenda includes another area, which is the strategy for development of capital markets. A couple of days ago, we have completed work on the draft strategy together with the Ministry of Economy. We will be releasing this paper shortly for comments and public disclosure, and anyone on the market, all the stakeholders will be having a chance to comment on the draft strategy. Well, notably, demand in any country, I would say, of the world to increase expenditures from the market, the budget exceeds the need to increase the revenues, the tax revenues. This does not happen in real terms in any country. But we differ from any other country of the world by having a restriction in the legislation. Constitution prohibits the government from increasing tax rates or tax types apart from two taxes. We can, under the legislation, increase excise taxes and property taxes, and for any other tax increase in terms of rates or types, we will need universal referendum. So it is practically impossible to increase rates or types of taxes, and nobody is willing to do so either. At the same time, let me comment on the expenditures, need to increase expenditures. We are limited in that realm as well. For instance, budget deficit should not exceed 3% of GDP, and public debt should not exceed 60% of GDP either. This provision in the legislation protects us from increased expenditures. Indeed, and sadly, competitiveness of our economy is very low. For several reasons, we have a few factors leading to that. By the way, all these factors are identified and mentioned in the strategy of inclusive growth, which we adopted last year. These are the low development of human resources, these are scarce access to finance, and low level of enterprise competitiveness. And we need to make some tangible steps to improve all these directions. And I have already commented on the access to finance. We have our agenda planned to develop the capital markets to solve this issue. Other efforts include development of the pension system to move towards savings system. Another area that we plan to develop is education, especially vocational education. So in a nutshell, I could say that we have a very clear picture of what needs to be done to develop the country's economy and to increase the competitiveness of the country. Well, notably, we are challenged with difficult times currently, and our wishes for the next 5 years differ from the opportunities that we have. Nowadays, our goal is to identify the advantages that the country has and to find best use of them. Last year, we have had 1.2 billion US dollars in terms of FDI. We hope to have more this year to create more jobs, to have more enterprises and to increase the living standards in the country. Well, notably, not every problem will be solved even after 5 years. But I'm absolutely positive that we'll have a very significant progress within the upcoming 5 years. On the background of what is happening in the world, Georgia's geopolitical position and location has acquired higher importance. It is very important that we plan to implement new projects to facilitate this role of Georgia being manifested into a regional hub. We have already welcomed a first pilot train to test the Baku-Tbilisi car sea railway link. We have welcomed the very first train from China. We have announced a call for interest and we have shortlisted companies, and the tender results will be out in autumn 2015, and we will know who will be constructing a deep sea port on the Black Sea. And the fact itself that we are hosting annual meeting of EBRD in Tbilisi, Georgia, is another evidence that we are potentially a regional hub in the Caucasus. There are plenty of challenges, of course, but all of them need a very strong response. Investment made by Tata Group is indeed very significant. It is coupled with clean energy, ADB, EBRD, IFC, and it is a very good sign to have the FDI increased in the country, in the sector, from Asia, from India, from all the stakeholders involved. I strongly believe that this project will turn into a role model for others to follow. And I also know that Tata Group is planning to make investments similar to that in future in Georgia. Indeed, that is the ultimate goal, to export energy. We have recently exported energy to EU. We are exporting to Turkey. We will be pursuing on that trend in future.